Hello, first grade families. We've just finished learning Chapter 7 and 8. Chapter 7 was an introduction to numbers to 20, learning about teen numbers. Chapter 8 taught us different ways to add up to numbers to 20. So Chapter 7, we learned how to talk about numbers by using the important value of 10. So as you can see in the picture, we've learned to group objects by 10. So here's 10. So we've learned to say 10 and 1 makes 11. So 10 and 2 would automatically make 12. We've learned these patterns in teen numbers to later help us on in solving our addition problems. We have learned to group 10 together to say 1, 10. The leftover numbers that we cannot group into tens are called ones. This is called place value. We've learned to talk about place value using an important math tool called base 10 blocks. So as you can see, this block is 100, this long is worth 10, and this block is worth 1, or cube. So we've learned to draw our numbers using pictures of base 10 blocks. So if we want to figure out 14 and how many 10s are in 14 and how many 1s are in the number 14, we can simply write the number 14. And that would show us that to get 14 we need one group of 10, the long line representing a long, and we would need 4 ones. 4 little dots representing a 1. So that would give us 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Pictures will later also help us solve math problems in an easier way. Now that we know place value, we can easily also compare our numbers. The tip is to always check your tens place first, then the ones place. If the directions were order your numbers from least to greatest, we would have to find the least number in the tens place first. So as you know, for a lot of first graders, finding the number of tens in a single digit number has been tricky. So it's nice to point out that in the number 8, there's 0 tens. So I could easily move 8 first, because every other number has 2 tens or 1 10. So I know 8 is least in this group of numbers. Then I compare the other tens. Here I have 2 tens. Here I also have 2 tens. And here I have 1 10. So automatically I know 19 is the next smallest number. Then I compare the ones place, because these two numbers have the same number of tens. So in this number I have 3 ones, and this number I have 1 1, so I know 21 comes next. So obviously the greatest number would be 23. If my directions were to order the numbers from greatest to least, I would do this opposite. When we know which numbers are greater or lesser than a given number, we can easily follow patterns with teen numbers. The first step is to pick 2 numbers next to each other to figure out if my pattern is getting greater or smaller. So as you can see, I can't use 18 and the blank because I don't know the blank. So I can use 17 to 18. From 17 to 18, I know my numbers are getting larger, so I know I'm adding a certain number. From 17 to 18, I know I'm adding 1. So to find the missing number, I could add 1 to 18, which would give me 19. Again, I picked 2 numbers next to each other. From 14 to 16, I also know my numbers are getting greater. So I'm adding. From 14 to 16, I'm adding 14, 15, 16, so I'm adding 2. So 16 plus 2, I know, is 18. The next one I can use 18 to 16 or 16 to 14. From 16 to 14, my numbers are actually getting smaller. So from 16 to 14, I would have to subtract a certain number. So 16, 15, 14, I'm taking 2 hops on my fingers. So I know I have to subtract 2. So So 14 minus 2 is 12. Solving patterns has been a little bit tricky, especially when the pattern isn't just plus 1 or minus 1. So parents and guardians, please use number grids, number lines, and this way it's easy for first graders to physically touch the numbers and count how many skips or hops you're going. In Chapter 8, we used our knowledge of place value and teen numbers to add the first grade way. These strategies will help us do mental math and solve problems quickly in our brains. So even if these strategies seem a little it doesn't make sense, or it seems like it's just too much work, it will later help us do mental math more quickly in our minds. So the first way we can add numbers are when we see one-digit numbers. Numbers that are smaller than 10. If we see one-digit numbers, then we add by making a 10. So here, I know the complement of 8 is 2. Since I'm making 10 with this number. And I know that the parts to 5, one part is missing. These are called cherry diagrams because the parts look like cherries. So 5 minus 2 would be 3. Then I could add easily because I know 10 and 3 off the top of my head. I know from Chapter 7 is 13. Now, if the cherry diagrams and the numbers are hard to fill out because we're unsure of our complements of 10 and we haven't mastered them yet, we can always draw a picture. So below I have 8 hearts and 5 hearts. So I'm going to add by making 10. So here I go. 8. I'm going to borrow some numbers from the 5. 9, 10. So again, I grouped 10. So it's easy to tell that I borrowed 2 from the 5 when I make 10 in my picture. See, I have 1 heart, 2 hearts. So I know 2 goes there. And then I know the leftover 3 goes in the other cherry diagram. So that's 10 and 3. So 8 plus 5 is the same thing as 10 plus 3, which equals 13. So that's how we add one-digit numbers using cherry diagrams. When we see an addition problem with two-digit numbers, then we don't make 10, but we pull 10 out. So we group 10s and 1s. So if I pull 10 out from the 11, I have 10 and 1. And this should be easy, and we should know this off the top of our heads because we've learned about teen numbers using the value of 10. So now, I'm going to group my 1s. I know 5 and 1 is 6. So 10 plus 6 equals 16. Again, if splitting my numbers is a little bit tricky, I can always use pictures. So here's 11 hearts, and here's 5 hearts. Again, I'm going to pull 10 out of the teen number. There's 10. And then my 1s. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 10 and 6 make 16. The last way we learned how to add in Chapter 8 is when one number is greater by 1 than the other. We've learned that we can use doubles facts. So first we learned our doubles facts by heart. And we noticed the pattern. We noticed 0 plus 0 is 0. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, and so forth. So our tip that I've taught the first graders is that if you want to know the doubles facts up to 6, you can count by 2s on your fingers until you hit 6. So that would give us 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and the same goes on. So I've taught them how to use their fingers to know their doubles facts. So when you know your doubles facts by heart, it's easy to figure out doubles facts plus 1. So that's when the number you're adding is 1 more than the other number. So like 3 plus 4. or when you add 7 plus 8, or 9 plus 10, you can use doubles facts. And we've learned that we always need to double the smaller number. So in the case of 3 plus 4, the smaller number is 3. And if I break the 4 down into my cherry diagram, 3 and 1 make 4. So that would give me a doubles fact of 3 plus 3 plus the leftover 1. And I know 3 plus 3 is 6. So 6 and 1 more gives me 7. So I know 3 plus 4 is 7 off the top of my head. Again, if filling in the cherry diagram is tricky, you can always use a picture. So 3 plus 4, I know I need to make the doubles fact of the smaller number. So I'm going to pull out 3 from the 4. So here I see another 3. So 3 and 3 make 6 plus 1 equals 7. I hope you found this video very helpful in learning how to add one-digit numbers, two-digit numbers by grouping tens and ones, and how to add by using doubles facts. We obviously don't expect all these skills to be mastered yet, but it's more of an introduction for us to solve addition problems more efficiently and effectively later on in life. So good luck on math tests.